The two longest tenured coaches in the NFL are set to face off on Sunday with the AFC North and a trip to the postseason on the line. Both Mike Tomlin's Steelers and John Harbaugh's Ravens have been up and down all year long, which has increased the noise around potentially moving on from these mainstays as head coaches after the season. And so, Didi, I'll go to you first. Will winning the division and getting into the postseason turn down the heat a little bit on either one of these coaches?
I don't think so. You start with Harbaugh. No matter what happens, barring a deep playoff run, which seems sort of far-fetched right now, it's going to be a disappointing season. We were talking about them as Super Bowl favorites, Super Bowl contenders. They're squeaking into the playoffs. The heat is going to be on Harbaugh, especially when you look at what happened in that Patriots game when they did not run the ball with Derrick Henry. People are going to remember that. When you have a coach who's on kind of I don't want to say a warm seat, that smoking gun will always be there. Now, the Mike Tomlin thing is a little bit more complicated. The Mike Tomlin thing, no matter what he's done this season, people have been saying, is it going stale? Should they move on from him? And they were a lock pretty much to win that division. His best receiver went and punched a guy in the stands, and now they could lose their last two games. How is any of that his fault? And yet and still, that organization, that city, that fan base has been talking about, hey, we need to move on from Mike Tomlin, which is why Mike Tomlin needs to move on from the Steelers. He deserves better than what the Steelers and what that fan base has been doing to him. All he has done for his entire time there, especially since Roethlisberger's left, has made the most of a situation where he has not had barely a decent quarterback at any point there. Show me the year in Mike Tomlin's tenure where he's underperformed. Show me the year where you've looked at these Steelers and said, hey, this is a Super Bowl team. This is a great team. And the coach has underperformed. They've not done what they're supposed to do. It's been the opposite. Every year we go and looking at the Steelers team, we say this team is a fringe playoff spot. I don't know how they're going to get 500. And all Mike Tomlin does is get them to 500. And while he does it, all the Steelers fans do and people across the league say is that he needs to move. They need to move on from him because it's gone stale. If you keep winning, I don't understand how it could possibly go stale. Mike Tomlin, like anybody in life, should go where you are celebrated for your greatness. He's not being celebrated for his greatness.
But he's not winning in the postseason. That's right.
But how many of those postseason games were they supposed to win? Where is the big Steelers upset on the resume? Where is the time where the Steelers walked into another stadium or had a team walk into their stadium and say, this is a game that they are supposed to win, and they lost? It's not there. What we've said is the Steelers team has miraculously made it to the playoffs, and they lose against teams that they're overmatched again. And it's Mike Tomlin, by the grace of Mike Tomlin himself, they're in that position in the first place.
Okay, I'm sorry, and I know there's no DK Metcalf. They were supposed to win against the Browns, though. They were supposed to win this past weekend against Browns.
Everyone is, yes, but that's a real defense and an offense that has been patching it together all year. I think you are exactly right. I think this is the epitome of a coach that gets the most out of his roster every single year. Now, if you want to ding Mike Tomlin for whatever role he has in the roster assembly phase of the year, or the player acquisition, like how much influence does he have on the quarterback decisions they make, then sure, because they're not putting together great teams. Right. But I do think there's nobody who's better at all right, here's the game this week, here's what we have to do to win it, and let's make sure we give ourselves the best chance, even if he doesn't always win it. The playoff losing streak started with a home game against the Jaguars that was kind of a big surprise to people. I believe it was 8 years ago now. And they felt like they should have won that game. Jaguars came out and punched them in the mouth. They almost came back. But since then, no, there has not been a game where the Steelers showed up in the playoffs as the favorite and everybody thought they should win it and it was let down. So the fans are not going to be happy with another. If he wins Sunday and goes to the playoffs and loses in the first round, it's going to be the same old thing. But I do think you're absolutely right, David, that the accomplishment here is getting them, if they get there, is getting this roster with a 42-year-old quarterback, with your best receiver missing the last two games for an idiotic reason, frankly, that would be an accomplishment.
To answer the question, I think their seats are cooler if they win this game. But I think to push back on what both of you guys are saying, I think to Shae's point, you can understand fans saying, yes, doing the most of what you got, blah, blah, blah. You can make all of those arguments. But they're also saying, well, damn, we want to figure out a way to win a Super Bowl. And when you continue to praise the same thing over and over again, I think from the fans' perspective, and you don't have to put this on Tomlin if you don't want. You can find whoever you want to blame in the organization. But I think from a fan's perspective, you're tired of saying it's okay to be mediocre or it's okay to be okay. We want to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. We want to feel as though year after year, we're getting closer to doing so. So I think when you look at this year at the end, because I agree with you, if they win what they do in the playoffs, I don't think is going to allow them to go much further. So now Steelers fans are going to finish another season and say, all right, maybe we just missed the playoffs, or maybe we snuck in and we lost in the wild card round. And then they're going to say, you know what? But do we have hope for next year? Like, are we more excited about next year, not knowing who the quarterback is going to be moving forward as well?
But when you have these coaches, when you have a Mike Tomlin, like what you know about next year is while you don't have the answer to that question about who the quarterback's going to be, you know you're going to be in it. And that's the thing. So if you're a Steelers fan and they win Sunday and lose in the first round, or even if they lose Sunday, are you going to be able to step back and honestly say it was the head coach's fault? Like, that's the part I don't get to, right? Like, how is it something Mike Tomlin is doing that is preventing them from winning these playoff games? That's the part I can't connect with. John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin want to win a Super Bowl much worse than their fans do. Like, that's a fact. Right. They live, eat, sleep, and breathe it. So it frustrates them much more that they haven't been able to get it. They have, but like lately haven't been able to get it done. So I would caution the fans of these teams, like, be careful what you wish for. Because you see these teams that go through coaches every 2 or 3 years and are constantly picking in the top 5 and not having these conversations.
But sometimes there might be something to having a fresh start so that he can reset his mindset. Or the Steelers. Now, I don't think the grass is always greener. Who are you going to get that can do what he's done with less? I don't have the answer to that. But to your point, like, when have they been? Well, this weekend they were disappointing in that loss. Like, all they had to do was win, and then they'd have a home playoff game. It was now that's DK Metcalf.
Yeah, they're disappointed. They lost the game. They lost the game because they could not beat man covers, and the guy who does that is DK Metcalf, who punched the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, what is Mike Tomlin supposed to do? Is parachute down to the other side of the field and tackle his wide receiver before he goes out into the like, I'm not sure how he can do anything to stop that. Like, to quote an old Twitter proverb, you don't want to be outside. You want to be a Steelers team that goes outside and tries to think that the single life is better than what you got right now? Good luck to try to get something that is better than what you have with Mike Tomlin. If you are fine with having 4, 5, 6 bad years and rebuilding from scratch, if you want to be the Giants, if you want to be the Jets, if you want to be that for a few years and hope that it turns around, go ahead, be my guest. But right now you have a guy who's going to put you in the playoff conversation every single year. I don't know why you act like you're ungrateful because you have that.
And I don't think the Steelers are going to, like, they're not going to let Mike Tomlin go. They're not going to fire Mike Tomlin. They're going to remain with him as their head coach. But you got to understand where they come from. And I think on the other side for the Baltimore Ravens, they don't have some of the same excuses that we talked about with Mike Tomlin. For John Harbaugh and this team, yes, I know Lamar Jackson was banged up, but before he got hurt with the hamstring, they were a struggling team that we were saying, hey, they're going to have to try to find a way just to sneak into the playoffs. So I think on their side of it, there is disappointment. We've talked about throughout the course of last week and this week of Lamar Jackson's contract and Harbaugh, what happens between those two. Is the connection strong enough to go into next season and find a way to overcome some of these things? So I think that conversation is a little bit louder than the one with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Just two very different situations. I think Pittsburgh's whole last half decade looks different if they had a real answer at quarterback instead of patching it together sort of on the cheap the way they've tried to do it, although they did use a first-round pick on Kenny Pickett. It didn't work out. Baltimore's got an MVP quarterback, multiple-time MVP quarterback that they have not been able to build a championship team around, and I think that becomes the conversation now with that contract getting to the point where it's time to either extend or not extend.
He's had a tough year, obviously, with injuries and whatnot.
Brian Flores, the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator, has found a way to keep that defense relevant since he got there. And in the last 5 years, he's played against this Giants team 3 times. In those 3 games, Graz, guess how many offensive touchdowns the Giants have scored?
1.
0.
Ooh.
So he's been absolutely dominant in those games.
Speaking of 0, the chances of the New York Giants, who have been sued by Brian Flores over the last time they tried to hire a head coach,
Why you got to bring that
are
up, Graz?
0. I'm not saying he wouldn't be good at it. I'm just saying there might be a grudge.
There's a lawsuit involved.
That's all
not
I'm
always
saying.
easy.
You might be right. It might be really good, but I don't think it's happening with the Giants.
Hey, what do you do when you're disrespecting a relationship? You go to New York, you get fly, you hand a bit. Mike Tomlin. You're being disrespected with the Steelers. Go to New York, get a mink coat, do what you got to do. Enjoy the big city and knock yourself out. Go to the Giants and finally have a good quarterback that you can coach and see what happens.
I got a guy that's underrated where he is, Kevin Stefanski. Like, I don't know if the Browns are going to move on from him. I don't know if the Browns would consider trading him, but that's a guy I would look at. If I were the Giants, I had a young quarterback to develop, looking for a guy that's he's had some success. You know, everything's relative in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Coach of the year twice.
Coach of the year twice, and things obviously not going great in Cleveland right now. But all these coaches that we've named would have a head coaching job elsewhere in a minute. So now, can the Giants actually get these head coaches is the question, because they've had some issues. This has been fun, guys. Tomorrow is the last day of 2025. Ooh. Isn't that exciting to think of? And then we'll move on to 2026. Who will be the Giants head coach of 2026? We will find out.